School Board District Number 1 meeting tonight. Wishing everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day, maybe a happy St. Patrick's week, so with it being so late in the week. So if everyone would just please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Bolton, if you'd like to proceed with the recognition.
Chair Jellicoe, Superintendent McGovern, and members of the board, if you'd like to join me down front for recognition this evening. This evening, we would like to start by recognizing an employee with 25 years of service. We would like to recognize Miss Jennifer Wilmetti. Miss Jennifer started with us in August 1997 through present. Started with support skills instructor at East Junior High School and social studies instructor to present at Rock Springs High School. Her education includes a Bachelor's of Secondary Education French from the University of Wyoming in 1995 and a Master's of Education/Instructional Technology from the University of Wyoming in May of 2008. We would like to recognize Ms. Wilmetti. Next, we have some special recognitions from the All-State Music Conference. Each year, interested students throughout Wyoming are given specific music guidelines, scales, songs, sight reading that they use to prepare them for a nerve-wracking audition. The auditions are then evaluated, and the best musicians in the state are selected to represent their school at the conference. We would like to recognize the Rock Springs High School students that were selected for the 2022 All-State Music Conference, as well as the individuals that did such a great job in managing and hosting this event. We would like to start with band. Shiva Yeshler, 4-year All-State saxophone player, outstanding senior nominee. Okay. Adam Lemon, first-year trombone. Ty Clark, first-year bass clarinet, sorry. No? And Taylor Smith, first-year clarinet. Okay. Can we give the band a round of applause? For choir, we would like to recognize Carson Hansen, third-year tenor. Okay. Morgan Forbush, second-year alto. Shane Meets, first-year tenor. Okay. Brent Lemon, first-year bass. Emily Bay, first-year soprano. Anna Sorensen, first-year soprano. Thank you. I was like, what is going on? Let's give a round of applause for choir. Next, we would like to recognize those, oh, are we going to take, no, you're good. Next, we would like to recognize logistics, the setup and equipment management. Kayla Mays, Mia Wells, Caden Ainskoff, Tina Marie Dumas, Isabella Rodriguez, Landon Pacerno. Okay, let's give logistics a round of applause. Can I just hand these to you guys to hand out? Okay, perfect. Next, and last but not least, we would like to recognize the staff that played such an amazing and huge part in putting on the All-State music. First, we would like to recognize Kelsey Wilson, All-State Choir Equipment Manager. Next, Joanne Stevens, All-State Band Equipment Manager. Next, Josh Knutson, All-State Orchestra Equipment Manager. No. Next, Weston Lamb, Constantino Elementary Clinic Equipment Manager. No. Ashant Westbrook and Ann Stuckey, Hospitality Room Coordinators. Theodore Bischoff, Orchestra Clinic Equipment Manager, Student Activity Night Supervisor. No. Wendy Compton, sorry, I lost my place, Registration Area Managers. Tara Droppers. Lisa Coleman, I know you're here, I saw you, Registration Area Manager. Rick Matlock, Equipment and Logistics Manager. He's probably at the theater, I would imagine. Riley Beard, the Rock Springs High School Custodian Lead. Glenn Supis, Hope Downs Lewis, Thomas Jasmine, Benjamin Strutka, and Dr. Cynthia Porter for logistics and support. Yes, Christy Lev, Transportation Coordinator. Okay, and I don't think this person's here either. I don't think I saw him. Brian Redman, our All-State Coordinator and Manager. concludes recognition for this evening. I would just like, oh, no, you have to stay here because now you're going to get a picture. I know you're humble, Brian, but you absolutely deserve this honor. But Brian was honored as the Education or Music Educator of the Year, and he deserves to be recognized for that. Where'd Steph go? Yes. And if anybody knows Mr. Redmond and what he pulls off along with our other music teachers on the daily, it's absolutely an honor to have you working for our district and you to get this award. Smile.
Congratulations to all the students attending and not attending, and thank you to the staff and those community people that are also helping. Thank you so much. It was an excellent event. Mrs. West, if we proceed with the roll call, please.
Mr. Reedy? Mrs. Summers? Here. Mr. Mickelson?
I am here.
Mr. Patillo?
Here.
Mr. Jackman?
Here.
Mrs. Thompson? Here. Chairman Jellicoe?
Here. Item 2B, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Jackman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Summers. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We also have an addendum, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the addendum.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Thompson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jackman. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item number 3, I'd entertain a motion to suspend the board meeting and open the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Jackman. Is there a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Second by Mr. Mickelson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We are now in a budget hearing.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent McGovern. For this budget hearing, there are 3 pieces, so it involves 3 funds. I'll take the first 2, and then I'll turn it over to Linda Carter for the last one. For the first 2 pieces, this involves the Overland renovations project, and the total project is a little over $4 million or so, but what we're doing in the major maintenance fund is we're increasing the budget to capture the funds that we've been promised from Jenner, and also some funds from the Capital Projects Fund. The thought behind this is that we would like to capture as many or as much of the cost as we can in major maintenance because of the different funding streams, and it makes the record keeping and the bookkeeping a whole lot simpler. Because for this project, there's some money from Head Start, so there's grant money, there's a Jenner money, there's a Capital Projects money, so we're putting it as much in one place as we can. For the Jenner money, the 1.7, that mainly is to cover the internal demolition and the plumbing on the inside of the building, and also some major remodel components. The capital projects, there's 2 pieces to this. There's the technology piece, which mainly are the cameras and then the network system. And then there's also the facilities piece, which covers the mechanical upgrades. So that's what you'll see on the major maintenance fund. On the capital projects fund, we're reclassifying those expenditures to show that they're transfers from the capital projects fund over to the major maintenance instead of capturing the costs within the capital projects fund itself. And with that, I'd open it up for questions.
Any questions? Please proceed.
Good evening, Chair Jellicoe, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Govern. The purpose that I'm speaking to tonight is the third purpose related to the budget amendment before the board. What you'll see in the board resolution encompasses a new ESSER grant, and it is the ARP HCY1, which is for homeless children and youth. The one just designates that it's the first grant. We'll be seeing an application for the second grant, which you'll see once we get it approved. And the grant award is for $165,943. And a final note to the board tonight is that the item analysis for the ESSER funds has been updated with this grant and updated with the funds that have been spent and encumbered up to, I do believe it was the 3rd. Yes, March 3rd. So, and that is all I have at this point in time. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Is there, we received no written public comment for the budget hearing. Is there any in-person public comment regarding the budget hearing? Any public comment regarding the budget hearing? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing and reconvene the board meeting. Is there a motion? It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Batolo. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item number 7. Welcome, Mr. Meyer. Dan Meyer is the Executive Director of Region 5 BOCES. Welcome.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, superintendent, thanks for having me here tonight. This is my annual, now it can be considered the road show, where I go around to all 13 member districts. And the purpose is to give updates on Region 5 BOCES and what we've been up to over the last year. And the second part is to make the official request for mill levy funding from all of our participating districts, which you are one. And we'll get into that towards the end. I will start with the presentation. I have a short presentation. I believe the materials are available and they're up on the screen. So we're going to do this in sequence. So I'm going to try to go through quickly. I have some redundant slides I want to go through. I have a lot of information on my slides. So again, I'm not going to go through every detail. So if you've reviewed these and you have questions, please stop me, ask me questions, but I will give time at the end. So if you want to flip to the first slide, it's our vision and mission. As I'm talking, you'll have a chance to read that. The big thing is that we've changed our vision and mission. As I've come on, this will be my 6th or 7th year. I'll have to count that. I'm not sure. Starting, and we've done a lot of changes, and these are some of the changes that you're going to start seeing from our organization. We're also working on our branding, our website, to kind of give us a new image. We haven't really talked about what our vision and mission should be, but the vision, as you've already had a chance to look at it, is really getting back to be district focused. We want to get to the heart of finding solutions for our district partners and create, some collaborative solutions for any needs that they may have. And I think that's something we've done, but we really wanted to articulate it and have that as our focus of our mission and vision as we go through. So, and other changes are going to be coming over the year as we change the vision and mission. We're going to look at how we brand ourselves, our marketing, and different things like that. Go ahead and skip ahead. These are the redundant slides. I just want to remind you who we are. What most people know us of is a network of accredited K-12 schools providing services for students school age who have diversified needs, that their needs are not best met in the public school setting. And you can see we have now 6 campuses. We have a newer campus, Spirit Mountain Academy. Most people recognize us, especially from this area. CBARV is our residential program. and then Roosevelt Learning Center, which only serves Sweetwater County as a day school type of setting. You can officially call yourself trendsetters because this is the second day school that I know of in our state, which was built back in the early 2000s. And now we have probably 9 or 10 more. And they've all kind of sprouted up in the last few years because of the growing need to serve our students in a more comprehensive manner and trying to figure out how we can do that in the community. So it was easy in Sweetwater County because there was already an established school there. So now we are just trying to figure out with our district partners what role we can serve for you, Sweetwater 1 and Sweetwater 2. We have a distinguished guest with us. We have our new program director, Katie Dodson, for Roosevelt Learning Center. So at the end, if you have questions specifically, because that is the school that serves your community, Katie's here to help answer those questions, or I can answer those as well. I will tell you on the end of day schools, and you can flip the slide, that there's a growing, even more growing interest to serving more community-wide, adding services within these day schools, mental health services, wraparound services, things like that. And those are the things that we're looking into to try to branch out and be more diversified in the programming that we're offering for our member districts. Our day schools originated in Seabarvie Ranch. For those in the audience who may not be aware, is really because of IEP needs. When you look at IEPs, there's some basic tenets that they have, and one of those is LRE, which is least restrictive environment. Kids need to be served in the most least restrictive environment possible. And sometimes for our special ed students, that can look differently. What we typically see as the least restrictive environment is school, right? And sometimes their needs, for whatever reason, may need different levels of that. This is just, it's from the Department of Education in Wyoming that gives you that whole spectrum of services. This does not go good to bad. This is just a continuum. And kids can be flexible on this continuum of services. So I think it's always important to highlight where we are, where our programs are in that continuum of services when we think about servicing our kids. Go ahead and flip to the next slide. The other area, newer area since I've started, is our outreach services, where we've really tried to grow those areas to find some of those other areas where we've had services that have served student populations in an alternative setting, but we've identified that there's other needs that districts have. I know because I know every district in the state almost, but I know Sweetwater County is struggling to find some related service personnel, other positions. There's other things that are coming up that we want to figure out how we could be a partner and try to serve some of those needs. Now, that's going to take a bit of change of thinking. We can't just hire people when you can't hire people as well, right? I mean, we don't have any magical powers beyond what you guys can do. In some ways, you have more leverage than we do. However, I think through some collaborative problem solving with other districts, are there ways to be able to leverage resources a little bit better, create new ideas. We're even talking about growing our own type of people and figuring out how we can complete all that. But in the meantime, we're going out and we're starting to survey district need, ask questions, and see what areas would be, I can dream up a lot of ideas, a lot. But if you're not going to buy those services, or if they're not a need, then I don't know if those services are really needed. So what we really want to do is start asking the question about, what do you need? And what can we do collaboratively to be able to fix some of those? One area, it was mentioned to me by a superintendent, was Title IX. Title IX investigations are becoming more complex. The regs changed. So we went out and got all of our program directors, trained the trainers for Title IX using a McGrath model, so we can train districts. Any district in Wyoming, we have the broad ability to be able to train everybody, because if you get their training, you can only train your own. But they've allowed us to be able to train anybody in the state of Wyoming to help. But also, we can be investigators, we can be decision makers. So when districts, especially our smaller districts, the big change in Title IX, in my opinion, is the, I always forget this term, but the separation of duties, right? If someone makes a decision, you need to have enough separation of duties where that decision isn't compromised. And for small districts, segregate or separation of duties becomes really quick. And even in a district this size, I'm sure it can really be compromised if someone's looking at an investigation. And so I listed several other areas that we are working on. Funding sources, I've had this slide. The only change to this is our grant funding. So generally speaking, 80% of our funds are billable services, so fees we charge. 11% is from contributions of mill levy, contributions from our member districts, and that is something that's why I'm here to request that. Those are limited funds. Those funds can't just be put into our general budget. Those have to be used for specific purposes, transportation, maintenance, things of that nature. Specifically, well, not general salaries. It can be salaries for like a technology person, but I can't use it for my salary or Katie's salary or a teacher at Roosevelt salary. We cannot use mill funds in that way. It has to be used for this project-based type of activities. I like to call it, which is not accurate, my major maintenance accounts, I guess. But that's not really accurate. I get told by my business manager all the time. But I want you guys to understand it. The 9% is grants. This one is increased, and the reason it's increased is our Safe School grant. We received a $2 million grant from the feds to train all districts in Wyoming on the CSTAG model, the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines. We are in the process of doing that. We have that grant for several years. I believe because of COVID, we're going to write an exception. The reason I mention that is because when you guys get grants, they offset, flip ahead to the next slide, your expenditures. Our grants do not. Our grants go right back to the district most times. They're very specifically used. So most of that 9% of that funding looks like, oh, he's getting grants. That all goes back to the districts. We hire people, we train, we buy the materials, it goes back. The money we do get is a little bit of N&D money, and we get some school lunch program. And that's the reminder, we receive no other state funding for our operations in any school. None of the basket of goods you guys receive. We don't have a major maintenance account, which leads me into some of the conversation that we're going to have. Our expenditures, you can see, are pretty basic. We just added a few pieces. I like seeing those pies get divvied up more. That means we're diversifying and we're doing more. And that's what I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to provide more of a variety of services that we're offering our districts. And now we're really getting to the next level of identifying what those specifically are. These site expenditures include all maintenance, transportation, food service, major maintenance, capital projects, all of that on each site. It's all encompassing with each one. And they're all net of any transfers. You can go ahead and skip ahead. I have some information about COVID. COVID has impacted a lot of organizations. We were also impacted. We had some unintended impact of COVID, which was Teton County going crazy with housing and salaries, which has caused a unique situation for us where we have a high demand of student and we're struggling competing with the market in Teton County to staff to meet those kids. So we are not at capacity. And the reason we're not at capacity, we haven't closed, is the fact that we cannot find staff. When I hear on the street that they can flip pizzas at Pinky G's for $25 an hour or $17, $18 an hour, doesn't seem like that great of a deal. Even if I convince these 22-year-olds that Wyoming retirement's great, you know, having health insurance is a good thing. At the end of the day, we all have, you know, so we need to rethink how we're doing that. We have a very needed program, which we have found, and the need has only exponentially gotten greater. I think we could almost open 2 CBRVs right now, and we would be able to fill both those facilities. So even if we get really up and running and take our max, the student need coming out of COVID is starting to look like it's going to be a bit more than what we're even going to be able to handle. And I know this conversation is happening at the state level with Department of Health and DFS because there's a lot of kids who are in need. Our day schools were a little bit less impacted. They were chomping at the bit to get started, you know, immediately. And we're able to flip to virtual, be adaptive. We have small student populations. We know our kids. It's not too hard for us to shift gears with our small population. So I like that flexibility in that program. COVID-19 impacts, again, The big thing is our revenue is our student census, and our student census has been down, and there's a multitude of reasons that are preventing us from being able to do what we want to do in our program. And it's not knowing what to do, it's getting the people there and getting them trained to do what they need to do. This just represents that again. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. Current financial impacts, you can see if you flip ahead to the next slide. Again, this is just a way to look across time, and you can see our year-to-date actual or ending fund balance versus our 21 ending fund balance and our 22 funding balance. And the dates on those are a little bit different because we were trying to capture. But again, at the end of the day, COVID has really impacted our ability. And when we're a fee-for-service organization, having that revenue come in is difficult, because our catch-22 is that we need staff to take the kids, which costs revenue, but we really don't feel comfortable taking all the students, which is, our expenditures, with our students with revenue until we have people trained. So we need to figure out what that mixture is going to be. And we've been working as a board. We've had a few board retreats. I'm going to meet with the superintendents this week to discuss some of these impacts and see what we've met with the special ed director group as well, to start getting some insight on what's needed, what we can do. At the heart of this was brought into our region in 1985, I just found out, CBAR-V, which was bought by Region 5 BOCES, which I'm going to find all this and give everyone in 1985, we bought the operation. And I'm always told, Dan, say this, we can't sell it. We can't sell any that we have up in Jackson where that land sits on. Probably could sell it for $1 billion. I don't know. Because if you know where it's at, you know it's in really good land. So we have this gift. We have this generosity. We do have some staffing. And it's figuring out what to do with this gift we have, which was utilized to do this operation. Maybe we do the same thing. We make some tweaks. But that's what we have to figure out. I do know we're leaving a void in the state. I know that the increased need of these high needs kids we hear about is because CBAR-V is just not picking up that slack. And I know that just by our census. I also know that other facilities are struggling as well, because it's hard to compete doing a difficult job when everything else is raising and it's hard. And in our case, we were cut in our I'll just say it. DFS cut us $5 a day on our nightly fee for our charge just this year through a legislative action. And education should be thankful you don't have that, right? And that's why we're fighting some of the things educationally, so they're not putting things in statute, because that's what will happen. They will take a segment of it and they'll cut it or they'll reduce a rate. And that's what happens to us. But it makes it hard to be able to serve those kids appropriately when you don't have the revenue and the resources that you need. Go ahead and scroll ahead to the next. This is our capital. If you scroll to the next slide. So the big thing is that not only do we have a staffing, and I think we have some ways to figure out that staffing, but then serving the kids in a facility that can serve their current needs. And CBAR-V, if you've been up there in a time, it's a 40-year-old facility that has not had a lot of TLC with it. There's a lot of upgrades to internet, to wireless. We don't have wireless keys. We want to get to a better surveillance system to help supervise our students. But what I found, because that's not my background, I work with the people side of things. I'm a psychologist by trade. But to be able to put those wireless doors in and those other things, I need to change my whole system, because our old system won't take the new system. So we have some major capital projects to keep ourselves to be able to go. This is giving you, we've always put this 10-year projection out, but you can see we're projected to be at about an $8.3 million shortfall in 10 years by our estimation of some of the projects that we have. Again, this is the time of the presentation I mentioned. We don't get major maintenance. We don't have that. So our fees in the mill levy we get, we save, and we do our projects. That mechanism has gone, you know how it goes. If you don't stay up on stuff, it deteriorates quickly. And we're at that point where it's we've got to make some decisions on, are we going to put these resources in and make this the facility that does that? Do we need to look at other type of situations? So, and a lot of it is at Seabar V Ranch, where 2 of our cottages have a second floor. And back in the day when we were originally taking handicapped students, I say that in quotes, I know that's not the appropriate term, but that's the term that was used, the level of supervision wasn't needed. Now we're taking an entirely different, traumatized, emotional, behavioral, sometimes very violent student. And we've done well, but there would be some infrastructure upgrades that would help our jobs be a little bit easier. Go ahead and scroll ahead. Again, why do we think we're going to be in such a deficit? So I went down to bullet 4 because I want to get through some of this. I don't want to take all your time. So one example of why we think this is we projected to just reside our building. We projected $200,000 as a cost just for our school building. We wanted to get something a little bit more sturdy, a little bit more stable. It's wood siding that's been there. So we went out and we got some quotes, and the high end of the quote was $1.6 million. So we overshot that project by $1.4 million. So we're seeing the cost of everything go up, and what we have as resources to do those projects are significantly different. So that alone, that project alone raised that up almost $1.5 million. So the next slide, if you scroll ahead, will show you what we're talking about. And that's maybe not a good sign, but we've done some repairs to this. I don't know the last time it was actually replaced, but we've done the staining and all the maintenance that we can. We're going around now, and you can see, and this is just 3 sides, but this is the building that's very much needed just repair. And again, boilers and internet system. There's a lot of other areas, but this is just an example of what we are looking at as projects. Go ahead. And so I come to you requesting mill levy, and we asked our board each year, right? We send, and I have at this time our chair, Stephanie, who is on your board. So Stephanie Thompson is our board chair, and we thank you at the bottom of our hearts for her service to our board. She puts time in from this board, and we're no walk in the park, even though I try to make it a walk in the park as much as I can. But Stephanie's been wonderful. But Stephanie signs an affidavit that our board says, Dan, you can go request from each member district. And I asked them at our last board meeting, can I ask for $500,000, the max, to help offset this? And the board was uneasy to make such a statement without any teeth in it, because actually you can. We don't put anything on it. What we decide as a board has no bearing on you as a board. You guys are gonna, that's what I've learned, right? I come out, we make decisions, we look at our budget, then I need to come out and say, board, your board, here's what we need. So what we tried to do is give you some visuals of what that could look like. So this progression looks at our deficits when you look at contributions and how quickly, right, we ask for 0.2 mil. We have a majority of our districts, you as one, do that. But you can see if we would raise it 0.1, everyone did 0.3. If everyone did 0.4, if everyone did 0.5, you could see how that trajectory goes. My goal has always been to ask for what I need, not just to get mill levies, because I don't know what we're doing next year, but why don't you all give that? And that's why we're starting to set out some projects to be able to be more targeted in what we're doing, and not just, I don't know if in the past the transparency was there for what these resources that your area is providing, but I want to be able to show you what you're providing. And we serve, in the last 5 years, I should do this calculation, but I'm pretty confident, we've served almost 100% of districts in Wyoming, just in our organization, easily. And so every district in the state touches some of our services, and they touch the other BOCES programs. And some of the other programs aren't in that need. So that's the mill levy conversation. If you skip ahead, you can see it's just represented in another way. Anticipated mill, it's what has typically happened. It's usually, if we would go based upon what's happened, it would be this amount. Then you can look if everyone gave 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, or up to half. You can see a landowner with $400,000, what that annually would be. Then the annual amount to BOCES would be this amount, then the deficit would be reduced by this amount, and it would take this many years to cover the deficit. And of course, the more, the less years that are there. And I know this is going to be an ongoing conversation. You can skip ahead. So changing this negative trajectory for ourselves to come out of this. What we are doing in operations is Region 5 BOCES anticipates increasing rates to cover increased operational costs. So we've already talked to some of our member special ed directors to let them know. Since I've been there, we have not done any rate increase. And our cost of living is increasing. And as I mentioned, the one area where we don't have control that will give us the cost of living decreased our rate. So we need to, and that was DFS, and what they say should be cost because of their budgets, reduce that. And that's causing them some problems in the state, I know, and out of state. And that's a big reason why a lot of kids aren't getting placed in general, is because it costs more. And we need to understand that. And kids aren't going to get placed until we are able to pay what it's going to cost to serve some of our more high needs kids. Our rates have not been increased since 2016. Increased inflation, increased wages. We haven't really done an inflation increase. We've tried to patchwork since I've been there by little amounts. So we're going to raise our rates to try to get ourselves more competitive, to be able to staff ourselves up. BOCES as an LEA was brought up in the interim. And we wanted, hopefully it's going to be brought up as the interim topic. I haven't even checked into that, but that was an attempt. I think when people come here, I'm not just coming to our member districts and asking for mill levy. I'm going out and I'm asking the DFS, Department of Health, WDE, and I get the doors shut. They point me back to you. They say, look at statute, you come back to the district. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's what I'm being told. And I'm starting to, with this BOCES as an LEA and different things, to try to bring in other revenue. I think there are revenue. I believe there are other revenue out there that would not get into your guys' pockets that could help offset some of our costs, that would help the state in general lower these costs for these high needs kids. And I think that's how we have to think about it. But right now it's one person or the other. And I'll tell you, in most states, because I look around a lot of places, that's not how they do it. It's usually a shared cost for these, because we all run into students who have particular needs that may need more resources. Every district gets it now and again. So it should be more of a shared type of responsibility. And right now we're fighting over whose budget it's coming out of, when at the end of the day it comes from the state. That's my little assessment of it. That's my little simple opinion. Don't know if it's true or not. So we are working to find other revenue sources, is my point. And my efforts have not been rewarded yet. Now, I have gotten some grants because I think it's hush money, but they don't realize they're reinforcing me to bug them more. So every time they give me $10, I go twice as hard. So I'm continue to do that, to find other resources that are out there. Under capital projects in our maintenance, or major maintenance, we request increased mill levy from member districts to cover projected projects, anticipated increased costs, or anticipated shortfall of that 13 million. Now, I know you don't make this decision till July. That's why I have a meeting with the superintendents on Thursday. That's why we're meeting with the special ed directors in a month. And I hopefully to have continued conversations. So then more people are educated on what's going on and we can make a good decision. But we need to infuse some resources into Region 5 BOCES, particularly into our residential side of programming, if we choose to continue to utilize that as a service in our organization, and we identify that as a needed area. Because it's going to cost resources to be able to serve these kids adequately. And I'm happy to go to the legislature. I'm happy to do anything that it takes to be able to get those funds to be able to serve the population we serve. Last slide. Those are our member districts. I stand for any questions. You could ask me anything because I'll defer them all to Katie.
Any questions?
lot of info.
How many students are you serving at Roosevelt? 12?
12.
Thank you. And the ages? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Guess you got off easy tonight. Thank you. Item number 8 is the communications and correspondence or the public comment. If a member of the public initiates specific complaints or charges against an employee, in order to protect the employee's rights to privacy and due process, the board will only hear those complaints or charges in closed session. The board encourages concerned individuals to file complaints using the appropriate district complaint procedure and appropriate forms, which can be obtained from the district's website. As per policies B, DDH, and KD, please limit your comments to the board to one time. If your comments have been previously submitted in writing, please refrain from addressing the board a second time. Policies B, DDH, and KD continue to state, questions asked by the public shall, when possible, be answered immediately by the chairman or referred to staff members present for reply. Questions requiring investigation shall be referred to the board or administrative staff for consideration and later response. We do have a couple of public comments that were submitted. The first one is from Jaden Spatz, a parent, and the public comment is hear good things. The second one is Rogue Flint, who is a student, and the public comment is okay. So I will now open it up to in-person public comment. If you wish to address the board, please step to the podium, state your name, and proceed with your comment. Any public comment?
Hello, I'm Marty Albert. I teach first grade at Sage, and as always, I speak for myself. I know you think I'm very opinionated, and I am, but I do want you to know that I run my thoughts past a lot of teachers before I come to you, because I don't want it just to be my crazy Marty's opinion. Okay. A few weeks ago, I was in a group of teachers from all school levels. A secondary teacher stated that elementary teachers were not successful because students at the teacher's level had not learned to function independently. At first, this felt like a criticism. However, the truth is, it came from frustration. And I agree with the teacher. I am also struggling with the lack of independence in many students. My team has discussed strategies to help with this without much success. We haven't been able to Kagan our way past the problem. After mulling this over and realizing that my thought in my classroom was that was age-related, and that was false, and having read that kids haven't changed, I asked our school counselor for input. She said research is showing kids have changed. Many more children are now born neurodiverse, ADHD, autism, oppositional disorders, etc. I know from talking with my students that many children are spending hours on video games and YouTube. Many no longer play with toys. I am saddened by the apathy I see daily in 6- and 7-year-old kids. The frustration levels in students who don't win every game or get an instant response is high. I strive to make my lessons interesting and fun, and it's a challenge to engage a good portion of my class. Some may say if students want to learn with technology, teach on technology. That would be a disservice. Our students need to be able to function in society when they leave school. They need to know how to hold conversations, win and lose as good sports, and pay attention to ideas that don't particularly interest them, but that might if they gave them a chance. So why am I telling you this? Because teachers are struggling. The methods we used in the past aren't successfully reaching our students as well as they once did. Sweetwater One gives so many opportunities for professional development. My sister, who taught in Los Angeles for over 30 years, has been amazed by the professional development made available to me. My students and I have benefited greatly from the wide variety of trainings I've been able to access through the district. I am hoping that professional development can be found that will address the new child. My research has found plenty for one-to-one conversations and kids in things like special programs, but nothing for the whole gen ed class. So I hope that you will consider finding something that can help teachers and help our kids. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Further public comment? Further public comment? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 9, the treasurer's report. Mr. Jackman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Treasurer's report, starting for the month of February 2022, we had $26,482,173.70. We concluded with $23,483,200.11. For the school lunch program, we began with $993,843.60. We ended with $1,237,335.03. In Head Start, we started with $88,305.62. We concluded with $90,833.28. And that concludes the treasurer's report.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
So moved, Madam Chair.
It's been moved by Mr. Batolo. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Summers. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item number 10, the warrants. Mr. Jackman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Warrants from February 10th, 2022 to March 9th, 2022. Checks numbers 149669 through 150391, totaling $5,051,405.31 with associated bank transfers. I do have a conflict to declare, item 150021.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Thompson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mickelson. I also want to declare a conflict on warrant 00150-241. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item number 11, the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are matters about which the board has governing policies, implementation of which is delegated to the superintendent. They will be enacted in one motion in the order listed below. There will be no discussion of these items prior to the time the Board of Trustees votes on the motion unless members of the board request specific items to be held and discussed separately and/or removed from this section. Minutes. 11A. Approval of the minutes from the February 14th, 2022 regular meeting and public hearing. 11B, approval of the minutes from the February 14th, 2022 executive session. Finance. 11C, approval of the resolution to amend the 2021-2022 budget. 11D, approval of the application for the deposit of public funds. Personnel. 11E, approval of personnel recommendations. Students. 11F, approval for Eastside Elementary School students to travel to the Teton Science School in Jackson, Wyoming.
Hold, please.
General Board Business. 11G, approval of the 2022-2023 Head Start Continuation Grant application. 11H, approval of the 2021-2022 Head Start budget revisions. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 11F. It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Batolo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. 11F, approval for East Side Elementary School students to travel to the Teton Science School in Jackson, Wyoming. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Jackman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Batolo. Discussion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jackman,
I just saw all of you here. I wasn't sure if you wanted to say something or not.
just thank you very much for coming and taking the. Just approve it and move on, right? Well, thank you for everything you do. This is kind of beyond the normal school day, so thank you for taking the time with these students. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. There you go.
I didn't mean to scare you.
Okay, we do have an addendum. The addendum, item number 1 is technology. The recommendation to approve Converge One for Cisco products in the amount of $161,162.97 and SHI for General Electrical in the amount of $4,863.46 for Overland Elementary rewire hardware. Due to inconsistencies in the bid documents regarding the camera equipment needed, this portion will be rebid. Item number 2, facilities. Approval of the bid for the maintenance of district fields from May 2022 through September 2022 for the fields at Lincoln, Eastside Elementary, Pilot Butte Elementary, Sage Elementary, Overland Elementary, Washington, Lowell, Stagecoach Elementary, North Park Elementary, Desert View Elementary, and Walnut Elementary schools. Recommendation is to approve the bid to Cheney Landscaping, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $50,000. This project will be funded through the Recreation Board discretionary budget. The Recreation or Rec Board approved the bid on March 8th, 2022. Item number 3, facilities. Recommendation to approve Crest LLC for the professional services as the owner's representative, bidding and construction of the turf replacement at Rock Springs Junior High School in the amount of $66,350. Professional services will be funded in an amount not to exceed $36,350 through the Recreation Board and in an amount not to exceed $30,000 in Major Maintenance Fund. The Recreation or Rec Board approved the bid on March 8th, 2022. 4, finance. Application for deposit of public funds. Wyoming Bank and Trust has submitted an application for deposit of public funds. Recommend acceptance of this application for deposit of public funds, approval of which is subject to the compliance with the Wyoming public investment laws. This application will be placed on file for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. An application for deposit of public funds from First Western Trust Bank, formerly Rocky Mountain Bank, was also received. Recommend acceptance of this application for deposit of public funds, approval of which is subject to compliance with Wyoming public investment laws, and once all supporting documentation has been received and reviewed. This application will be placed on file for the 2021-2022 fiscal year and the 2022-23 fiscal year. Item number 5, personnel. Approval of the following personnel recommendations: accept the hire of Tyson Gillies for the counselor position at Rock Springs High School. B, Laura Grossnickel, 6th grade instructor at Pilot Butte Elementary School, has submitted her letter of resignation effective at the end of the 2021-22 school year. Recommend acceptance. And C, Marianne Mosier, music instructor at Farson Eden School, has submitted her letter of resignation effective at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. Recommend acceptance. Did you want to discuss the facilities? Item number 2 is a new approach to some of the care for the district fields. So I'm going to ask Superintendent McGovern to address that.
Sure. Members of the board, members of our community. Number 2 is something new that we're trying for the district that we never have before, and that is to outsource some of our fields. That's why it has went through the rec board. They supported this endeavor. But moving into the summer, we have typically 3 summer hires that we do for facilities, and we also have 3 that we do for IT. They help with the machines in IT, prepare the buildings for the following school year. For facilities, we would like to continue having the 3 summer hires for this year anyway, since it's brand new, to see how this goes. And we know that this doesn't include all of our fields. For example, the CAB, Westridge, the junior high, the high school, Black Butte. So we will still have some of those maintenance and landscaping things that we need to get finished as well. Those budgets for the summer, they carry over. So part of it is in fiscal year 22, the part in July and August go into fiscal year 23. But again, brand new outsourcing this, and we're very interested to see how this will go and help relieve some of that demand that our facilities people have, and with Cheney to take that project.
And I believe the hope is that the people that we do have we can use to do some painting in the buildings and some upkeep in the buildings and classrooms and so forth instead of out on the fields. So just a little bit of explanation, since that's kind of a new item. So I would entertain a motion to approve the addendum.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Jackman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Thompson. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Hey, item number 12 is the COVID-19 update. Mrs. McGovern.
Sure. Great news. As of last Friday, March 11th, the district had 0 positives, 0 quarantines.
With that good news, I'm going to suggest that we suspend the COVID-19 updates on the agenda. Superintendent McGovern will continue to monitor those numbers, and should we see a spike or something where it needs to be brought back to our attention, we'll give her the flexibility to do that. Are we in agreement with that idea? So we'll remove that from the board agenda moving forward. Item 13, board self-evaluation, policy responsibilities, 13A. First of all, I'll read the rubric. Item number 1, the board maintains well-defined policies consistent with the strategic goals of the district. 2, the board involves administrators, teachers, staff, students, parents, and community members in the development or review of board policy. 3, the board clarifies for the superintendent the intent of the board and actions necessary for the implementation of board policy. 4, the board periodically reviews and updates board policy according to an established plan. 5, the board ensures that policies are current with mandates by government agencies and courts. And 6, the board makes policy manuals available for district employees, students, and the public. So would anyone like to start? Mrs. Summers?
I'll go ahead and start, but before I give my evaluation on this one, I brought up last month, where we were going with this, and you asked me for some ideas.
Okay.
And so I thought about some ways that maybe we can make this more effective for us or help us. And, and they're just kind of ideas. One of the things I was thinking about was possibly picking the lowest area that we find, where our scores are the lowest, and it may help to use the administrator scores as well when we're kind of picking areas And then coming back to the meeting or highlighting those and maybe coming back the next month with ideas about where we can improve that score or tools, et cetera. I know we discussed having a special kind of session or workshop to address this, but that was kind of one of my ideas. The other one that I'd kind of like to see us look at with some of these rubrics, some of the questions are really designed, either you do them or you don't. They're not really, you can't score yourself 1 through 4 on them. And I'd like us to either, look at those questions and change them so that they're more something that helps us. And then there are other questions that are outside of the realm of the board's kind of responsibilities. It's like outside of our lane. And I think some of those things are things that we maybe need to look at and eliminate from the rubric so we're not going over them again and just having those kind of same discussions. So those were some of my ideas for maybe looking at our rubrics and making them work for us and help us improve over time. So that was kind of, and then I think we need to look at rubrics where, there are certain ones that it seems like they are largely the board's responsibility. And I think we need to go back and take a look at some of those rubrics. And I think, one of the ones maybe we should go back and take a look at is I know it came up last year, maybe about this time, was workforce relations. And just with negotiations coming up and then, kind of the national crisis that education is facing. I heard a study yesterday, they did a poll nationally, and 50% of educators are seriously considering leaving the profession this year. If we lose half of our educators, we're not going to be able to function. And so, and I know we struggle. I mean, we struggle to get bus drivers, we struggle to get subs, we struggle to fill all of our positions. And so, maybe evaluating those workforce relations is a good place to start, because if we don't have our educators, then we can't move on and do what we need to do for kids on some of these other initiatives. So those were kind of my ideas with regard to the rubric and using it to help us improve as a board and help us improve as a district. And, maybe thinking about discussing those things. So with that, I was looking in this rubric, I rated us at a 3 was my average score. And I felt that our lowest score is in the board clarifies for the superintendent the intent of the board and actions necessary for the implementation of board policy. I don't know how much we always do that. I think sometimes we ask, but I don't know how clear we are always. And then I'd like to see some improvement on number 1. The board maintains well-defined policies consistent with the strategic goals of the district. I think there's always room for improvement in aligning those things and, improving to align with our goals for the district. So overall, I gave us a score of a 3.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Batolo?
Thank you. As I looked at this particular rubric, I agree with the fact that many of the things that happen here are things that are done for the board, and then we approve the results of those. So thank you to the committee that does the policy, to the administrators that lead those committees. I gave us a 3.5, and I thought that the one area that I feel a need for us to improve mostly on is number 2, which is the involvement of teachers, staff, students, and parents. And I don't think that's our fault, though. I think it's hard to get parents, especially, to volunteer to be on a committee like this. So that's a thank you, but I think we could maybe do a little better at that one. The other ones I gave 3s on were number 1 and 3, and then the rest I gave 4s. So my total score would be a 3.5.
Mr. Jackman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andrea, great comments on how to improve. Yeah, those sound like fantastic ideas. So, for the policy thing, and it's kind of like Andrea was saying earlier, I've been rating the ones that aren't yes or no a little bit higher and giving them a little more weight. So I'm sitting us at a 2.5. I feel like the things that really the board should be focusing on, such as clarifying to the superintendent or setting a plan on where to review policies, we haven't been super effective at.
Mrs. Thompson.
Madam Chair. So I gave us an overall rating of 3.5. Areas of improvement is number 2, and that's the one that involves administrators, teachers, staff, students, parents, and community members in the development or review of the board policy. My other one is clarifying for the superintendent the intent of board's actions and implementation of board policy. And then my other one that I marked a 3 was the periodic reviews and updates of board policy according to an established plan. And then as far as Ms. Summers, I actually was thinking about her suggestions last time, and I had kind of come up with a couple ideas of my own, if you guys don't mind me going into them. But I always seem to find the trainings that we have with Rod Kessler with the Wyoming School Boards Association, they are so, you can't get that training anywhere. And he actually came and helped us with the leadership governance and getting that rolling. And to me, that might be a suggestion, having him come in here. He's worked with other districts who are going through the same process, so he might have suggestions that we might not think of, and wording and things like that that could help meet our district needs. But that I would think would be more of a workshop setting. But I also like the idea that you had of just kind of doing it from month to month, so it's still fresh in our memory. And another suggestion I had was, when we find one, like you said, with a lower score, or one that we don't like the wording, we need to write it down and keep a file of it and make note, like, we need to go back and review this one. We didn't like the wording, or it didn't meet what the board was trying to do, or it's more an administrator. And that way we kind of have a plan of improvement. So we're not going back and, no, did I remember that correctly? There's always that question of the discussion. So those are just my suggestions on maybe other ways that we could help with the training process.
Thank you. Mr. Mickelson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I was looking at this, my thought process revolved around similar process to what we do with our consent agenda. There are policies that are just dictated by statute. There are policies that are purely operational, and then there are policies that actually matter to the strategic goals. And part of, I think, the issue with getting parents and community members and staff and students to participate is that we're bogged down by treating every policy as having the same weight. My overall score is 3 1/3, but largely because I think we are struggling to keep up with the volume, because we're not assigning a weighted value to them. If a policy is just statutorily driven, it doesn't need a lot of review or thought. If a policy is just operational, it doesn't need that level of impact. But if a policy is impacting the strategic goals, that's when we really need that whole team of people looking at it. And I think that's a real weakness to our approach. Thank you.
Thank you. And my score is a 3. one that I marked the lowest was number 6. The board makes policy manuals available for district employees, students, and the public. I do not disagree that the policy manuals, they're all online now, so you can go to the policies online. My concern is the search engine that you use to it. It's pretty much non-existent. So unless you are very familiar with policies, which I would say seldom are students and the public in that category, you've got to have some idea of what you're looking for. And so I'd like to see some improvement in the search engine so that you can search for a word or phrase, something, that's in that policy, and at least it would come up with some policies that have that in it and give you a starting place. So that's one of the areas that I think that we need to do some improvement in. Let's go on and move on to the administrators' thoughts. Let me pull that one up a minute. Okay, the administrators actually gave a 3.29 for the rubrics. And there were 2 administrators who did sign or author their comments. So I'd like to read those comments. First one is, this is Glenn Supis. I marked one of them as a 1 only because I do not know anything about this portion. The board periodically reviews and updates board policy according to an established plan. I have never heard of the plan, and to be honest, I have never asked. I just know that I am on policy committee and we review whatever HR brings to us. I love how we look at policy, discuss policy, and then send the policy out for review. This is a really good process, so if this is the plan that is mentioned, I would give the board a 4. I wanted to make sure that if I am giving feedback, you know who it is coming from. I have been on policy committee for the last 3 years, and there is a plan. We want to review policy in a timely fashion. We should be going through the policies on a regular basis. Unfortunately, we have been inundated with legal matters, as Mr. Mickelson addressed and some of these others. We just can't seem to get caught up with all the changes in state statute and federal law. So the policy committee is tasked with meeting once a month, and rarely do we meet just once a month. Usually it's 2 meetings a month, and we just have not been able to get through the number of policies. So I spoke with Nicole Bolton, who chairs that committee. And so we have discussed a few things that she's going to bring up with the policy committee. But I think the assurance that there is a plan and that we know that we have been hijacked in a way by all the legal kinds of things that are coming through. And obviously we have to be compliant with those. So trying to work on some way that, as Mr. Mickelson maybe suggested, that if it's legal language, the law is the law kind of thing. And then maybe we can free up some time so that we can move through some of the other policies. So, and then there's one section of the policy book that's also part of the SEA negotiated agreement. And of course, those don't go through policy. Those have to go through the negotiation process, which we will be addressing some concerns that we have with language there. So, like I said, I just want to reassure people there is a plan. That unfortunately we've not been able to follow the plan because of all these other legal matters. So, Mrs. Bolton, would you like to share anything else?
Thank you for entrusting me with running the policy committee, Superintendent McGovern. And then I know that she answers to you guys as the board, and that is your main role, is looking over the, keeping track of the policies. It is a plan that I meet with Superintendent McGovern every single year. We go over them. There are so many policies out of date. As Chair Jellicoe said, the legal changes are just inundating us. But I think that Trustee Mickelson actually said it the best. And I said it was funny when Chair Jellicoe came to talk to me, because I literally have been talking about this to the superintendent that I'm going to bring forward to policy committee because we absolutely need to look at the tier. If it's a legal thing, it really doesn't need to consume policy committee's time. If it is an operational thing, such as the policy that says board meetings start at 7, but have we ever gotten it to policy committee to change to show that it starts at 6? That doesn't need to go to policy committee. And it would really help streamline policy to be able to get, really the plan is all the policies are listed out and all of them show the dates. And then we have to go by priority of need or the direction that the board is going. And so really a lot of these align and the board oversees this, but we are the ones that are implementing it. So thank you for your support with this. I actually think it runs pretty smooth, but there are some definite things that need to be reviewed so that we can get on track to help you guys implement this even better. And as far as the search engine, that was something that was done by HR some time ago. And as Ms. Spicer's been uploading them, she has been hitting the box. And so when they say it's getting easier, it's because some are easy to search. It's just been crazy with COVID and stuff, but we really want to revamp that so that they are a lot easier. And really, they are categorized in alphabetical order now, but really putting them together so people can go just to the staff policies if that's what they need, just to the student policies. And there's different ways to do that. So I hear you loud and clear, and we will be working on that.
Just a little more user-friendly.
No, I agree.
Mhm.
Even for me, and I know the policies.
Well, that's it. I've spent time looking, and I thought, I know this is where it is, and it's just trying to find the specific policy, so.
Are there any questions about the procedures or anything with this? as
Anyone
far
have
as-
any questions on it?
Thank you.
Thank you. So to address Mrs. Summers' concerns, that was my suggestion that this is a work in progress, okay? And that I think maybe contacting School Boards Association and have Rod come down and help us, and going back through. And so, making notations, how do we want to simplify this and make sure that we're dealing with things that we deal with? And if they're yes, no questions, then we can make them yes, no questions. And if we need more feedback, then those kinds of things. So I think maybe making some notes to that effect. And I think maybe August or September might be a good time to set up a meeting with Rod, and we can kind of go through and work this. And then I do like your suggestion as well, that we identify the area of most concern, and then follow up with that with some things that we could do the following month. So I do like that suggestion as well. So I think, as we work through this, and you were not on the board when we initially went through the leadership governance process. So I think as we finish out this year and we start looking at how we simplify this self-evaluation and make sure that it's effective for us. And if it's not effective for us, what can we do to make it effective for us? Okay, are we okay with that? Mr. Jackman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Remind me when our cycle starts over again.
September.
Okay. So I was curious.
Yeah, I think it's September.
Yeah, that's why. So
Yeah.
September means,
That's what I'm making.
and that gives
I'm
us 2
thinking
years of
maybe
data to average together. and-
that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is that agreeable with everybody? Okay. And so if you would make some notations and things like that starting now, then we can build on our collective memories as we move forward to simplifying and making it more effective. Okay, I do have one more comment that was made by an administrator. Again, this one was signed. I have been on policy for many years, so I see the behind the scenes work. I appreciate how Mrs. Bolton facilitates our meetings and the communications she and Callie Spicer send out to us. I have not seen a parent or student on this task force, so I marked my answer accordingly. Perhaps having a diligent, dedicated parent and secondary student on this committee for specific policies would be beneficial. I am not sure. The board and HR always send policies out for review to all stakeholders. All policies are posted on our website, so anyone has immediate access. As a building principal, I literally use that site weekly, if not almost daily. I really appreciate the time the policy committee took for policy EB. This one is huge and so important in our daily work. Mrs. Bolton led this effort, and her leadership is very much appreciated. She always ensures everyone's input is valued. She is very knowledgeable and keeps our work organized and on track. The work of the District Policy Committee over the years is to be commended. Thank you to the board for supporting Mrs. McGovern. She leads with great knowledge, dedication, a clear focus, is family-oriented, and also respects policy. We are blessed to have great leaders in our district. Thank you all for allowing us to have a voice through this survey. I absolutely love my school and this district. Thank you, Tina Searle. So that will proceed in the manner that we talked about. Okay, thank you for all that input.
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
yes, Mr.
Sorry,
Jackman.
a comment on the comments, just following our positive behavior matrix. The comments that are specific, this is why I rated you this, super helpful, I think, for all of us.
I found the comments much more helpful this month, and thanks to all of those, all of you, there were several of them. And we continue to say they're anonymous. If people do wish to sign them, then I'm happy to read them. But, those are the things that we're looking for so that we can help to become a more effective board. Thank you very much. Thank you for that comment, Mr. Jackman. Okay, item number 14, the book study. We had chapters 3 and 4 of Ruby Payne's Emotional Poverty in All Demographics book. Anyone have any comments? Mr. Batolo?
Madam Chair, as I read through these things, as a lifelong educator, I'm always looking for things that kind of strike me as keys to the whole chapter or to the whole paragraph or segment. One of them that I saw in chapter 3 was the idea of the importance of the daily contact, or as often as possible contact that teachers have with students. I thought that's just something to bring to this venue to remind ourselves of. And then the one from chapter 4, there were so many things, but the one that was kind of the most compelling to me was that when it talked about the differences between the way that males and females deal with issues, that female responses, according to this author, are based on fear, and male responses are based on shame. And that was, I guess that wasn't something that I didn't kind of know, but I just think that it's important to keep that in mind as we make decisions about things.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Thompson?
Madam Chair. So I guess for me, what I pulled away from the next two chapters that we discussed were, I liked the, scenarios that they placed, the actual conversations that were happening in a classroom setting and how the teacher responded, and then the corrective behavior of, well, maybe I should have phrased it this way instead. I thought that was really beneficial just to see the difference and the mindset change of how to reach a child who's struggling. And then it went and broke down like the different areas of the child that was struggling. And so I thought that was really very beneficial just to see how those conversations may play out. And I'm hoping it'll be beneficial for our teachers to see that, because I was like, I could see us using that. Like sometimes you just don't know what to say, but if you have a guideline somewhere, it gives you a place to start to reach that child.
Thank you. Mrs. Summers?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think one of the most striking things I kind of pulled out of, mostly from chapter 4, where they discuss the benefits of anger, like how it helps us deal or not. And then, dealing with anxious students. And I think it's kind of interesting. We're noticing with the pandemic a whole lot more anger. So there's been a rise in violent crime. There's been a rise in traffic accidents. It's the highest it's been since 1980. We had the most traffic accidents in the last year, increased suicide rates. And one of the things is that people are angry. They're more upset. They're more anxious. They're more angry. And I think our educators are probably seeing this in the classroom with their students. And So how do we deal with this level of anger, and where is it coming from? And, just the discussion of the bonding, separation, individuation, and then the new bonding, that cycle. And if you're moved through it too fast, or you aren't able to mourn, how that sets you up for issues like anger and anxiety. And so I think we're seeing this in society kind of as a whole. And that's what struck me out of that chapter. So,
Okay, Mr. Jackman?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
Everybody said everything. I don't have a,
Okay.
yeah, sorry. I don't
Mr.
know what to tell you.
Mickelson, do you have anything further? Did we lose him? Did we lose you, Max? I'll go ahead. I too found the data where they talked about the differences between males and females very interesting. And, but I think in chapter 4, the stories were compelling, but I think the one that hit me the most was the one on bullying, where she talked about even in adult life, the bullying that she experiences through because of some of her research and stuff. So I think that's just something that bullying is a power struggle, and that, just the ability for kids to try to work through that as well as adults. And I totally agree with Trustee Summers that we have an angry society right now. I mean, they're agitated, they're angry and so forth. And so it's impacting a lot of everyday life. And I'm sure we're seeing, as Mr. Meyer talked earlier about the need for students in his facility, violent kids and so forth. It's all coming to a head. And so I think we need to do whatever we can to help our teachers work through that with their students, giving them as much opportunity as we can to through professional developments and some things like that to help them navigate these tough times. These are very tough times. So, okay, item number 15, good of the order. Before we go back, we'll go ahead and read chapters 5 and 6 for next month. Okay. Is that working out pretty good for everybody? A couple of chapters, is that working out pretty well? Okay, good. All right, so let's go to the good of the order. Anyone have anything good of the order?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Mr. Jackman?
I just want to make it a point to say that I think if you're employed by Sweetwater County School District number 1, your number 1 goal is student success, and whatever your job is. If it's a janitor, the kids need you there. We don't have anybody employed here that the kids don't need for their success. And so the idea that student success as part of the district isn't my problem, it's somebody else's problem, is unacceptable to me. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with good of the order? I have a couple of things. First of all, I want to acknowledge negotiations with Sweetwater Education Association. We have a meeting scheduled with the negotiations team on April 13th, and then negotiations will be held on Thursday, April 20th. So we're scheduled for that. Was it 21st? I thought it was the 20th. It's Thursday, 21st. It is the 21st. Thank you for the correction. Okay, so we've got those dates in. I want to also acknowledge the end of the legislative session. Yes. And nothing really drastic happened. As a matter of fact, the bill that we were all watching, I think it was Senate File 62, that would have required teachers to put everything online and be accessible, did not make it out of committee, as I understand it. So that's don't get me wrong, all of our materials are available. We're not trying to hide anything, but that would have been an undue added responsibility on our teachers to have to do that. So chances are it'll come back, but at least for the year, we have a reprieve. Okay. Also, I want to acknowledge that the high school is doing a quality review of standards for our SPED students, at the high school, I should say, with a couple of people who have their group is called Don't Even Stop. Is that correct? Don't Even Stop? Pardon me? Don't Ever Stop. Okay, Don't Ever Stop. Okay. So, and they're coming into the district a couple of times. And as a matter of fact, I think we're going to try to schedule some lunches with trustees on the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. So we'll get some information out to you and see if we can get a couple of trustees on each of those days to meet with us. And the two people, Copper and Jean, right? Copper and Jean will be here and actually be able to sit and visit with them. So they're doing a quality review of the standards things. And they're doing it, they'll be there in the end of the month, and then they'll be back in April, correct? And so the conversation that we had last month about having Mr. Supas come back in April, I would like to suggest that we move that to May, that would give him time to take the information that we're getting from these people in this review, this quality review, give them some time to compile all that stuff. And so we'll move that to May instead of April. Okay, just to give them the time and the additional resources of this group. Okay, so just an update on that. Okay, item number 16, new business, updated graduation times. Please take note of those. There have been some changes. The vacancy notice, you received an updated version of the vacancy notice as of March 7th, 2022. 16C, the calendar for the months of March, April, May, and June are there. And then 16D, the February 2022 Head Start Governing Board and Policy Council monthly report is there. So any questions on anything? Okay, again, with the graduation dates, please update your calendars and reserve those dates as much as possible. Item number 17 is an executive session for the purpose of legal and personnel matters. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Jackman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Thompson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now in executive session, again, for the purpose of legal and personnel matters. I do not anticipate any action upon our return.
Really? That's so sweet.
I'd entertain a motion to return from executive session.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Jackman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Batolo. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Batolo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are adjourned.